moderator. Hereby call our special town meeting to order. Thank you for coming this evening to exercise your right to vote and to determine how the town spends your tax dollars. Before we conduct our business, please rise, remove your hats, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. And please remain standing after the pledge for a moment. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence to remember those veterans and active service duty members who faithfully serve our country and have defended our freedoms so that we are able to live in peace. Thank you very much. While you're settling in, on this day in 1968, the Apollo 7 was the first manned Apollo mission, and it launched with 3 astronauts who orbited the Earth for 11 days and transmitted the first live television broadcast. So, good point of history for your entertainment. All right, first I'll introduce those on the stage. Starting on your left, my right, we have the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, Town Legal Counsel, Town Finance Director, Town Clerk, Town Finance Director, and the Town Finance Committee. I want to thank everyone on the stage who helped prepare the warrant for the meeting tonight. Any non-voters in the room are asked to please take a seat in the front, over here by Superintendent Lamarche, who's also joined us this evening. And all registered voters shall remain seated with no side conversations, please. Please be respectful of those around you. It's my duty to remind you that under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 39, Section 17, if you fail to comply with our established meeting protocols, you will be warned and then removed if necessary. In the event of an emergency, please exit the auditorium carefully. There are several points of egress at the front and the rear. And let's briefly review the voting procedures for town meeting. So when considering action on an article, I will call for a motion and then a second. Then I may ask for the recommendation of the Finance Committee and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen, and then open the floor for any discussion on the matter. If you wish to speak, please approach the microphone and wait your turn. State your name and residential address in Charlton and wait to be recognized by me, the moderator. Once I've recognized you, you may address your comments or questions to me or share information relevant to the issue being discussed. I will call upon town officials or administration or our town council as appropriate if we need assistance in responding to questions. You will have 3 minutes maximum to speak. Please
How do I address her?
I have my cell phone here.
Madam,
I'll try to be timer for the
how do I address
program
Noreen?
tonight. Discussion of any issues specifically not outlined in the warrant will not be allowed. We will avoid matters of personality, and it's not appropriate to refer to other voters by name or call upon others to speak. All discussions must be restricted to the business at hand. An article may not be amended. When you make a motion to amend, you're amending the motion. Once a motion has been made and seconded, it may be amended by a majority vote of town meeting. If you wish to make a motion to amend, it must be addressed at the microphone and submitted in writing during the discussion of the main motion. So we do have papers here. If anyone anticipates that you would like to make an amendment this evening, you can speed the process by picking up a piece of paper and starting to write your proposed amendment. So, Selectman, would you please do me the honor and put them down by the microphone for me? Thank you very much. Okay, we use our electronic voting devices. Every registered voter should have one. Once I call for a vote, the voting device will be activated. Press 2 or red for no, press green at the top for yes. You can press multiple times, only your last vote will be registered. And your device will show the word okay when it has been received. I'll give you 10 seconds warning, and we're going to use a test question to practice with our devices this evening, not to delay the evening, but to give it our best shot here together. So our question is, does pumpkin spice actually belong in coffee? Green for yes, red for no. Please vote now.
Withheld.
voting time just for this question. You have 10 seconds remaining. Okay, we'll stop the voting. And the noes have it. 29 in the affirmative, 50 in the negative. I agree, does not belong in copy. Sorry, folks. All right, we're
So
gonna
many
move forward.
people.
I will start by reading for you the return of the warrant for a special town meeting. To either of the constables in the town of Charlton and the county of Worcester, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify the inhabitants of the town of Charlton qualified to vote in elections to meet at the Charlton Middle School, 2 Oxford Road, in Charlton, Mass. On Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, at 7 o'clock in the evening for the purpose of taking action on the following articles. Article 1, appropriation of funds for unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year. To see if the town will vote to raise by taxation, transfer, or borrow and appropriate a sum or sums to accounts to be specified at the town meeting for payment of one or more prior fiscal year's bills, not paid due to an insufficiency of appropriation or for other reasons, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. Do I have a motion?
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I move that the following prior year bills not previously paid due to delayed billing be paid from the following fiscal year 2024 accounts as printed below. $3,420.63, fiscal year 2024 Conservation Stormwater Management to Water and Wetland LLC. $636 to FY 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals expense account. To Thomson Realtors, $199 fiscal year 2024 assessor expense account that is going to Amazon Business LLC. $11.82 FY 2024 Selectman Town Administrator expense account that is going to Amazon Business LLC. $46.43 FY 2024 Fire EMS expense account going to Amazon Business LLC. $17.79 FY 2024 Fire EMS expense account to Amazon Business LLC. $187 FY 2024 also Fire EMS expense account Amazon Business LLC. $164.97 FY 2024 DPW expense account to Amazon Business LLC, and $41.49 to FY 2024 sewer maintenance equipment, and this is going to Staples Business Advantage.
Thank you. This article is sponsored by various departments. May I have the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee approves this motion.
Supports the motion.
Supports the motion.
Yeah, and the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen supports this motion.
Thank you. A majority vote is needed. Please vote yes in the affirmative. No, if you can agree in red. Please start voting now. Oh, you know what? I jumped to voting without discussion. Forgive me. Sorry, there's not even a Patriots game on tonight. What am I doing? Is there anything to be said on this matter before we vote? Hearing none. Please vote. Green in the affirmative, red for no, vote no. Seconds. Please stop voting. We have 92 in the affirmative, 4 voting no, so the motion carries. Article 2, intra-departmental transfers and/or appropriations for the FY 2024 budget. To see if the town will vote to raise by taxation, borrow, transfer, and appropriate from available funds, including so-called free cash, and/or funds previously appropriated to other uses, a sum or sums of money to accounts or purposes to be specified at the town meeting, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This article is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, and various departments. We have a motion.
Madam Moderator, I move the following sums to be raised by taxation or transferred, whichever is indicated below, and appropriated to the following accounts for the purpose of which funds may be expended to the latter accounts, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, or his and her designate other to appropriate Town Official Board Commission Committee to enter into the contracts, including leases and take such necessary action that may be to effectuate the purpose of the foregoing vote. Each item is to be considered at a separate appropriation. And I guess I need to read all these appropriations now.
You don't need to state the account numbers, but just generally the
Yep.
amount.
Yep. So, FY '24 OPED, $150,000 from free cash to fund the OPED trust per funding plan. FY '24 police wages, $98,000. For a deputy chief. FY '24, $32,000 for operating assessment, body-worn cameras and software technology. Capital Stabilization Fund, $250,000 to raise and appropriate and fund stabilization according to reserve policy.
Selectman Cologne, for the, just to expedite for the evening, would you like us to consider each item as a separate appropriation with the motion as presented in the booklet?
I believe that if the booklet's created the way it was, if we, it might be easier just to, unless people have discussion over different items, I'm fine taking all in one. It's not.
Okay, great, thank you. So we have a motion as presented in the booklet to move those dollar amounts as presented and the purposes stated on the side. Please note that that table of appropriations goes over to the next page and includes restoration of stipends as noted in the table. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion to be had? And when you come to the microphone, please state your name and your residential address in Charles.
Cindy Cooper, Berry Corner Road.
Thank you.
I understand why we would want to reinstitute the stipends, but I have a question about creating a new position with a one-time effective budget item. That would be the deputy chief for $98,000. And I was just wondering if there is a plan for funding that, which will be even more in future years because this is only for the rest of this fiscal year, if there's a plan for funding that in future years.
Thank you very much. So the question is pertaining to that second item of police wages for the deputy chief. Is there a plan for future funding of this position in future budgets? I'm going to start with the town administrator, Andrew.
Yes, Madam Moderator. The plan is to fund the position going forward into the FY '25 budget
From the same account,
from the operating expenditure budget.
from your operating budget, okay? And is the police chief present? Would you like to respond to this budget request, please?
This is Dan Dow, Police Chief, Charlton. This funding would get us through this year, and then we're funded for the position if the budget goes through for next year.
It would be 2 years of funding, 2 fiscal years of funding
The monies would be for this year,
for this year.
this fiscal year, the remaining fiscal year, and then we would cover it through our existing budget for next year.
So in the future, your intention is to roll it into the operating budget, and I hear a point of order. Can you speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you?
Any better?
Yeah.
Chief, get any closer. Any better? Any better? So this would get us through this year, and then we have next year's budget would be all set. We fund the position through that.
So it would get us through this year, and in next year's budget, we would fund the position in our operating, with our operations. So that's the response to the question.
Is there a reason, I'm sorry, Cindy Cooper, Berry Corner Road. Is there a reason that it wasn't included in the fiscal year '24 budget?
Thank you. Is there a reason why it wasn't included in this year's budget at town meeting?
There was a reason. I guess we were just waiting to see what financial shape the town was in before we proposed it.
Okay. Thank you
So
very
obviously
much.
Amazon and things like that have happened that we were obviously stalling. But the position's been long needed. This just seems like the opportunity to do it. Basically, we haven't had any management or growth in the police department in over 20-something years. So this would be the first time we've done that. But we wanted to make sure that the town was in a financial shape to do it.
Thank you.
Madam Moderator, Robert Lemansky, 157 Sunset Drive. Question to the chief is, what is the value of the position annually?
Value in terms of contribution to the department or financial?
Financial, what's it costing the town?
Okay, what's the cost to the town of this position on an ongoing basis?
Well, the money in front of you right now to approve is for the position for this year. And then like I said, we would continue in next year's budget funding the position. As far as the value,
Well, again, is that 90?
So, excuse me, hold on.
98,000? Is that-
that was a
The
number we
moderator,
decided to make
please.
sure, depending upon when the position's created, it was worst-case scenario of what we would need this year if it went like almost immediately.
Okay, so if we could ask the police chief to please respond to that again into the microphone so everyone can hear you, and then if you could refrain, Mr. Lemansky, for just a moment until he's completed his remarks, and then if you have another question, I'd be happy to entertain it.
So my understanding, the $98,000 was worst-case scenario to get us through this year, depending on when the position is actually created. We haven't created a position, we haven't interviewed anybody, we haven't gone forward because this is the first step in that procedure. So this was a number that was derived to, if we started tomorrow, what it would be. So that number is probably a little less, but that's worst-case scenario.
Thank you, so that's to create the position. Thank you. Mr. Lemansky, did you have a follow-up question?
Robert Lemansky, thank you. If in fact the position or the year was going to start next month, what is the annual amount for the deputy chief? Is it 98,000? Is it 148,000? That's a question.
So I'm going to pose that to our finance director and see if we've had those conversations internally, administratively. What's the full year cost of the position?
So the value at this time is going to be unknown because we haven't interviewed anybody, but they're going to get put on the pay scale like everybody, like any other employee would, based on the numbers of the years of experience they have and what degrees they have. So since this position's brand new, we're going to have to go through and evaluate the job description when it's created and go through the whole process like we would any other employee. So the value at this time has not been determined. This was our best guess at the time to get them through the end of the year if the position goes through.
And just to clarify, this is the best guess for a 12-month allocation or the best guess?
Best guess going forward from if they were hired tomorrow.
If they were hired tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob Lemansky, Sunset Drive.
Mr. Lemansky?
Yes, I have a question on Actually, it's the OPED trust for $150,000. Can someone explain to me what that $150,000 is going to pay for?
Thank you. So I will ask the finance director to explain the OPEB trust and what $150,000 will be.
So every year, we have to be audited by a outside company for our other post-employment benefits. So this is funding towards our policy to get us fully contributed per the OPEB, so the other post-employment benefits, so retirement money. But we have to fund this through the state. We're mandated by funding this. This is to contribute that portion of this year to get us to the full amount to be funded in our time frame, which I believe was 40 years when we started.
Okay, so a portion of this money would go to the Worcester County Retirement Program?
It's separate for that. This is for our
It's separate
post-employment
from that.
benefits. Yeah, separate from that.
Okay, does the town of Charlton have a balance due to the Worcester County?
To the Worcester
Okay.
County.
Yeah,
So do we have a balance?
This is separate from Worcester County, but every year we have to contribute to Worcester County, so that they're also audited by a company similar to this. And that, when we pay and you'll see that amount in May, that's the amount that we're told we have to pay. So you'll see that amount in May in the budget. So this is separate from that.
So importantly, what I heard you say was that this is required by the state.
Correct.
That we make this contribution
Correct.
at this time.
Correct.
Thank you.
all right, so, Madam Moderator, so I guess in layman's terms, the Worcester County Retirement Program would be the Social Security program for people who work for non-city, state, or town.
So actually, we're not discussing the Worcester County.
Well, I know you're not, but thank you, Mr. Martin. I'm trying to get at the point is, does the town of Charlton have a amount due balance with the Worcester County, if a portion of this is for it or isn't?
I see.
Separate from this, yes. This is all, we owe a balance on this, and we also owe a balance on Worcester Regional. They're separate.
Ballpark figure on the amount owed?
On the amount owed to Worcester Regional?
Yeah.
I don't know that off the
No
top of
idea.
my head.
$10, $200,000?
I mean, considering we paid $2 million to them in May, or July, sorry, we get the figure from them every year of what we have to pay them. But I don't
Okay.
know off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, is this a bill that's just, all right, this is what we got, we pay the whole thing off?
So,
Or is there a balance?
Yeah.
Sorry.
yeah, no problem. Thank you. I think you made an excellent point. And you asked for information about what we actually owe to the Worcester County Retirement Fund, and the answer was we don't have that information available at this time. Thank you.
Hello, Timothy Smith, 43 Casey Road, Charlton. Hi. In regards to the deputy chief position, I have a couple of questions that I'd like some clarification on. As regards to the position itself, where is it going to be filled from? Is it going to be filled inside the department or externally?
Okay. I will ask that question to Andrew. Do you know administratively where that will be filled? And
We would have, sorry, Madam Moderator, we would have a competitive interview process for it through our current personnel policies. Sorry, we would have a competitive interview process consistent with our current policies.
Okay, and the current policy is?
To advertise for the position, and any person qualified to be considered for that position would be considered.
So it could be external right now?
It could be any person qualified for the position.
Okay.
So this is an external posting open to anyone to apply.
All right, if it's going to be external, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I could speak, I guess I could walk down.
Mr. Lemansky?
Yes.
You have a question on this matter?
I'm moving, same article, I'm moving down to the Capitalization Stabilization Fund, $250,000.
Yes.
Can I have an explanation on where that is going?
Okay, so it does state on, for the record, that this is to fund stabilization according to our reserve policy. But I will ask our finance director to explain that so in layman's terms, so everyone knows exactly what that means.
Can you be more specific?
Well, no, again,
It's-
I'm looking, excuse me, I'm looking
Be
for
more specific. Where
you
is it
people to
going?
be more specific.
Please explain what the stabilization fund and the reserve policy are, so that when we're putting $250,000 from capital stabilization into stabilization, what does that effectively mean for the town?
So this money is gonna, the $250,000 is gonna go into our capital stabilization fund, which was created a couple years ago at town meeting. The reserve fund policies that we wanna have is, up to 10% in, reserves saved per our policy, which is part of the Board of Selectmen's reserve policy. So we always wanna have a savings on hand. It's gotta be at least 10% of the budget. Obviously more if we can, but we wanna have at least 10% of the budget in stabilization at all times.
Thank you. So if you refer to the front of the warrant, it very nicely presents for you the balance of each of these accounts. And so I'll just call your attention on this particular question, where it is to capital stabilization fund, $250,000 to fund stabilization according to the reserve policy. That means it's moving from Fund 9024, our capital stabilization.
It's going to that account.
To the box.
Yes.
That's, I'm confusing you all now. It's going to capital stabilization fund. The capital stabilization fund, from my understanding, is for motor vehicles, heavy equipment, trucks,
Any
capital purchases. And so this is moving money into that fund in order to follow our reserve policy and fund stabilization for capital items. Is that clear?
I guess in kitchen table terms, we're taking money out of one account and moving it over to savings account? So
No,
we,
this is, we're taking money from raise and appropriate, sorry, Madam Moderator. So you're taking money from the raise and appropriate, putting it into capital stabilization.
so you're asking the taxpayers of Charlton to either raise or appropriate $250,000 so we can put it in that account?
Madam Moderator? Yes. So it's coming from taxation, but doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from taxpayer. It could be coming from Amazon, other commercial properties. So we had more new growth come in than we expected from other commercial properties when we did valuations after July 1st, then we knew that when we did budget. So that's where this money would be coming from.
So if I could add to that, the raise and appropriate does not mean that you are suggesting a new tax. This is using funds that are already raised through taxation and allocating them into the capital stabilization fund.
Okay. Just for clarity, and thank you for your patience. So as I'm to understand, this is anticipated monies that will be coming into the town, and the town is saying, we're going to take that and put that into our stabilization fund.
That's what I understand. Is that correct?
Only if you vote to approve it. If not, you
If it
lose
gets approved.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. So if you vote no, then you lose out on that money. So that money would be coming in from more new growth that we had for taxation. So if you vote no on this, you would essentially lose that money that's coming in. It would essentially close out, and it wouldn't go to your levy, if that makes sense.
It's not clear. No, that doesn't make sense. So I'll ask you to clarify again.
You want to clarify it better?
Thank you.
We're taking new growth.
Yeah.
So what we projected for our initial budget came in, our projected growth is higher than what was projected back in May. So we're utilizing that additional growth to put into future savings to use toward capital purchases.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
No problem, thank you. It's a good question. Sorry for the confusion. Yes, sir.
Madam Moderator, John Howland, Osgood Road. I move the question.
Thank you, sir. All in favor of moving the question, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, we're moving the question, and we're ready to vote. And so, calling the vote on the motion that's on the floor now for the delivery, for the movement of funds stop voting. 88 in the affirmative, 17 in the negative, the motion carries. Article 3, amendments to the FY 2024 budget. See if the town will vote to amend the sewer enterprise fund fiscal year 2024 budget voted at the May 2023 annual town meeting, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This article is sponsored by the Finance Committee. Do I have a motion?
Madam Moderator?
Yes.
I move that the town amend the fiscal 2024 budget voted at the May 2023 annual town meeting by increasing the amount to be allocated in the sewer enterprise budget from usage charges by $3,800 and increasing the amount budgeted to the sewer commission stipend salaries by the same amount.
May I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. What's the recommendation of the Finance Committee, please?
Finance Committee supports this motion.
Thank you. And the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen? Thank you. A majority vote is needed. Is there any discussion to be had on this matter? Hearing none. All those in favor, please vote yes with the green button, no with the red button. Please vote now. Seconds remaining. Please stop voting. 95 in the affirmative, 10 voted no, majority passive, and motion carries. Article 4, miscellaneous capital items and related contracts. To see if the town will vote to raise by taxation, borrow or transfer from available funds, including so-called free cash and funds previously appropriated to other uses, and appropriate a sum of sums to purchase capital items and/or for service, repair, improvement, architectural, construction, renovation, improvement, and/or other contracts related to town buildings, facilities, or property, or to municipal services, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen, Chief Procurement Officer, or other appropriate town official, board, commission, or committee to enter into such contracts or leases and take such other action as may be necessary or advisable to effectuate the purposes of such votes or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen and various departments. Do I have a motion?
Madam Moderator?
Yes.
I move that the town vote to transfer and appropriate the following amounts to the following departments' respective accounts for the FY 2024 capital budget to be expended for the following purposes. Each item being considered a separate appropriation, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen or Chief Procurement Officer to enter into such contracts, including leases, and to take such other action as may be necessary or advisable to effectuate the purposes of the foregoing vote. $20,000 from free cash to the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. $50,000 from free cash to the Grant Fund Matching. $50,000 from free cash to the police station HVAC system upgrades. $50,000 from free cash for town hall improvements. $75,000 from free cash to technology replacement and improvements. $13,000 from free cash to replace a Z-turn mower. $2,000 from free cash to purchase a ripper tooth for excavator. $370,000 to raise and appropriate for the landfill monitoring. $150,000 from free cash to replace, repair roof edge and gutters, new building part 2, and $70,500 from free cash for the fire pond cistern pipe and screen replacement.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. Motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Finance Committee? Thank you. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen supports this motion.
Thank you. Majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter? Mr. Lemansky?
Yes, Madam Moderator, Robert Lemansky, Sunset Drive. The $370,000 Board of Health, can I have some information on that? Exactly, is this something that's has already been been studied, determined, and this is what it's going to cost, and what will it solve?
Thank you. So this is, I'm going to ask Andrew to respond to this.
So, last year, we had that operational money in, last year, this money was in our operational budget. Because the extent of the landfill monitoring at the Old Town landfill, essentially we're working on capping that landfill and mitigating any environmental issues. We are required to do regular quarterly monitoring for this. This will now go into a article account, which can be used past the current fiscal year. So we don't have to go back and put it back into the operating budget.
Mr. Lemansky.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So is there a budget of what it's going to cost, whether it's quarterly or semi-annual or annually, to monitor? And you say the old dump. I remember the old dump. So that dump or the one that was just closed 15 years ago?
The old dump. So any
Really?
of the land, I'm sorry, Madam Moderator.
So, yes, that's fine. The old dump is on which street, please? that you're on?
Flint Street.
Yeah, Flint Road.
Okay.
So it's
Flint Road dump.
the first area behind the first fence there.
That is correct.
It's about this big. $370,000?
Yes, sir.
And what happens if we don't do it? What's the consequence?
So, Andrew, the consequence of not funding that, my understanding is it's a set-aside required by the state, but
Potential fines from DEP and EPA for failure to monitor a identified contaminant.
so possible fines to the town for not fulfilling our obligation to monitor the landfill.
Madam Moderator, is it possible, or I guess you got to do it in a motion, to make a motion that the amount of $370,000 be separated from this article so it can stand on its own rather than being bundled with all these others?
So if you want to propose an amendment to the motion,
Yep.
you could amend the motion to
Yep.
exclude that item,
Okay.
to accept all other items, and then to consider it separately. Is that something that you're proposing to do?
I'm just going to sit down and write it.
Okay, the paper's right there.
Madam Moderator? Can I just make one comment on this?
Yes, sir.
This money is a lateral transfer. It was transferring from the operational budget into an account, so there's no additional appropriation. This money was already approved.
So could you please state your name and address
Sure.
in town? Thank you.
Peter Lancet, 49 Baker Pond Road, formerly served on the Board of Health, and we had this money in the operational budgets year after year, and it's ongoing PFAS quarterly testing along with other mandated testing by DEP. So rather than reapplying for the money every year, the thought process was to do a lateral shift into an account that stays viable year after year. So there's no additional money. It's just a transaction to make it more sustainable.
From one account to another. Thank you.
Madam Moderator, with that new information, thank you for that, then I'm not going to try to do an
File an
amendment.
amendment. Okay.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Ruckowitz, 70 J. Davis Road. Just a quick question on that one. From the following accounts, on that landfill monitoring, it says raise and appropriate. So that makes it sound like you don't have money for it. It doesn't say you're transferring it, it says you're raising it.
So, yeah, thank you. So we did clarify in the last conversation, which apparently wasn't clear enough. So raise and appropriate is the normal taxation and what the town is expecting in tax revenue.
Okay.
And then it does not imply that there's an additional tax being made.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Or things to be said on this matter? Hearing none. Motion and second. We have recommendations. Majority vote is needed. Please vote green for yes, blue for red for no. Please vote no. Stop voting. Also, under Article 4, miscellaneous capital items and related contracts, we have two additional motions to consider. For motion number 2, do I have a motion?
Madam Moderator,
Yes, please.
I move that the town vote to transfer and appropriate the following amounts to the following departments' accounts for the FY 2024 capital budget to be expended for the following purposes. Each item be considered a separate appropriation and to authorize the Board of Selectmen or Chief Procurement Officer to enter into such contracts, including leases, and to take other such actions as may be necessary or advisable to effectuate the purpose of the foregoing vote. $120,000 from free cash for a 2023 skid steer with attachments. $8,000 from free cash for a 2023 Fisher sander.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee supports this motion.
Thank you. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen supports this motion.
Majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter? Hearing none, please vote now. Green for yes, red for no. Affirmative, 15 voted no, the motion carries. Backing up to the first motion, I failed to read you the results. 95 were in the affirmative, 12 were in the negative. That motion also carried. Third motion on Article 4. Do I have a motion?
Madam Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Bobrowski.
I move that the town vote to transfer and appropriate the following amounts to the following departments' account for the FY 2024 capital budget to be expended for the following purposes. Each item be considered a separate appropriation and to authorize the Board of Selectmen or Chief Procurement Officer to enter into such contracts, including leases, and to take such other action as may be necessary or advisable to effectuate the purpose of the foregoing vote. $210,000 from free cash to replace 3 police cruisers. $15,000 from free cash for police tactical gear and training.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Finance Committee, please?
The Finance Committee supports this motion.
Thank you. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen supports this motion.
Thank you. Majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter?
Stephen Sage, 41 Lincoln Point Road. In the past, we've replaced cruisers 2 at a time per year. Is that going to change as a historic 3 cruisers per year, or is this an unusual year to replace an extra cruiser?
Thank you. I believe 3 were replaced last year, but Andrew, would you like to answer that question?
I can probably answer part of that.
Andrew, the town administrator?
Yes, this is the 3rd year that we've replaced three cruisers instead of 2. Essentially, the demand on the cruisers has increased and the replacement has decreased with the newer age of the cruisers.
Okay, so that for the last 3 years, we've replaced 3 cruisers instead of 2 as part of the budget. Is there anything else to be said on this? Hearing none. please vote now. Green for yes, red for no. Seconds remaining. Please stop voting. With 88 in the affirmative, 17 voted no, the motion carries. Article 5. New fire substation design phase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate funds by borrowing, taxation, transfer from available funds, or otherwise, a sum of money to pay costs of schematic design services, as well as retaining an owner's project manager for design and construction of a new fire substation, including payments of costs incidental and related thereto, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This article is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Madam Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Burns.
I move the town vote A to transfer and appropriate the sum of $400,000 from available free cash to the fire substation design phase account 0100-220-5824-0201 for the purposes set forth in the article. B, to be authorized by the Board of Selectmen and Chief Procurement Officer to enter into such contracts or agreements, including but not limited to such involving leases and acquisitions of interest in the land, and to take further actions they deem necessary and advisable in the purposes of the foregoing vote.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We have the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee supports this motion.
Thank you. We have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Thank you. A majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter?
Bill Borowski, 69 Haggerty Road, for the record, not speaking on behalf of the board. So what this is, in case you don't follow social media or watch our meetings, because I think you have better things to do, is it's proposing a design for a fire substation that's going to be right in front of Charlton Middle School. What this will allow us to do is continue our path forward for a vote in May, in which we're going to request funding if this passes tonight. The type of funding that we're going to request is still TBD. We're going to have honest conversations with everyone here. We're going to present exactly what we think it's going to cost, what the tax impacts are, et cetera, et cetera. But this, to me, when we talk around needs versus wants, we've reached the point now that we need this. This is not a public safety building. It's not even a full station. It's a substation which will allow for greater coverage of the entire town, faster response times, et cetera. I highly recommend we at least support it tonight, and that if we don't like the funding implications come May, you have the opportunity to deny it. But denying it tonight puts a stake in the heart of this. So please join with me tonight and vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Michael Lundquist, 92 Turner Road, Charlton.
Mr. Lundquist.
So my question is we spent all these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars researching fire stations. You guys are calling this a substation.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Please speak into the mic.
You're calling this a substation, fire station, right? So there's 8 bays in this fire station, which is the size of almost every town around here is a fire station. Is it not that we're calling it a substation now, trying to get it passed and putting it in front of the schools on top of that? When for the last 10 to 15 years, all this town has argued about is how hard it is for all the trucks to go up the hills from the other fire station to come this way. But yet we're doing the same thing because we're putting our fire chief in this fire station. We're putting all the, important people from the town, according to this, the drawings that you guys have up on the website, that we're gonna move everybody to that station, so, and then we're gonna hire more firefighters and everything else. Wouldn't it make more sense to spend $18, $20 million and just build one fire station at the center of town? Because this is an 8-bay fire station. It's not a 4-bay, 2-bay, 3-bay that you would normally see a substation built. You know, this is a full-size fire station according to you guys' plans. It's got a gym, it's got everything in it. This is not a substation. This is a fire station. I support the fire department. I've donated thousands of dollars to the fire department. I 100% agree, and I'm sure most of this town does. We need a fire station. But this is not just a substation. This is a full-blown, gonna become fire station in the heart of where all the schools and all the traffic and everything else is. And I'm thinking of, where's everybody gonna go when the fire trucks and everything else gotta get out there in school hours? Where's all, you know, what are you gonna do with all the traffic? You ever go to Bay Path at 7 o'clock in the morning, you can't even get up that road because everybody's lying down Muggett Hill. So I'm just thinking outside the box here. Why don't we take the $18 to $20 million instead of building here in front of all the schools and around all the neighborhoods, put it in the center of town where it should be, and where you're gonna, you know, everybody's proposed for the last 10, 15 years, put it up on the hill across from the Sonic Home instead of putting it here in front of all of our schools. And I live at this end of town. Love to have a little substation further down this end of town, but the reality is we need a fire station. We need it for the whole fire department, not just a little thing we're calling a substation.
Thank you. So I'm going to direct your question to Chief Knopf, who's kind enough to be here at the microphone.
Good evening, Madam Moderator. Just to clarify, Chief Ed Knopf, Charlton Fire, also 46 Oxford Road here in town. To clarify some of the statements, the need for a substation is quite apparent with the size of this town. This town is 44 square miles. To have a centrally located fire station, as Mr. Lundquist stated, on Masonic Home Hill does not satisfy the needs and wants of this town and the citizens, especially in the southern area. This substation, while it has 4 bays that are drive-through, yes, it is not made for that purpose. Those purposes are, and what we have to remember is we have a Station 2 that is currently in the center of town, which has 4 pieces of apparatus in it that are, and I have pictures, if anybody would like to see them, I will be posting them on our social media platform tomorrow, vehicles that are rotting away, literally rotting away from the bottom up. I have pictures of rust. We had an oil leak in our rescue truck that is contributed to the rust that incurs from the building and the water that ends up in it after every rain. So those are some of the facts as to why this is needed. That building, for all intents and purposes, should be condemned by the building commissioner. So the reason for the substation is twofold. One, it's to provide a 6 to 8 minute response lessening for that area of town, for all those individuals that live in that area of town. And 2, it eliminates the need for the Station 2, which, as I stated before, should be condemned.
Thank you. Chief Knopf, could you please clarify, one comment that was made was about 8 bays or 8 trucks. Will you be able to fit 8 pieces of equipment into what's being proposed?
So one of those bays will house the tower truck, which is, if anybody doesn't know, it's what we call Station 3. It is on leased land across the street from 10 Power Station Road. We lease that garage from the homeowner.
Is that the Quonset hut?
That's the Quonset hut.
So this would replace that as
Sure.
well?
So there would actually be 7 pieces of apparatus up there, an ambulance, an engine, some of the ancillary vehicles like the boat, the rescue, and some of those items. Most of the, in fact, all of the pieces of apparatus at the current Station 2 plus the tower. And to further clarify, the chief has no plans to be at that station. That is going to be for our community risk reduction captain, who oversees all the community risk reduction programs we do in town, like SAFE, inspectional services, the address indicator, so that, that division will be housed up in that facility.
Thank you, Chief. And that will include how many personnel, please, just to respond to the question?
When you say personnel, how many will be there?
Yes.
Current plans is to have 3 full-time staff plus an admin assistant and the captain for community risk reduction.
Thank you. Is there anything further to be said on this matter? Mr. Carruthers? State your name and address, please.
Yeah, Steve Corona, 17 Old Worcester Road Extension, Charlton, Mass. Is this on?
Yeah.
I have to be closer. This, just to give a little bit of history on this, on the fire substation committee. Probably a year ago, a bunch of us, a group of us got together. It was Bill, myself, Andrew, Chief, Karen, Scott Cedar. There were a bunch of us that were really involved in this, and this is a little over a year ago. And when you go through this process, you start listening to the chief, and you're realizing, I mean, I'm not a firefighter, I don't understand. And he starts saying, like, eventually, no matter what we do in town, based on the size of the town, we're gonna need a substation. We're just too big. It's more about response time, less about cost. And then, so then we went through the selection process, picked an engineer, came up with a design that we think was favorable to the neighborhood. And then, and now we're at that point where we're, okay, what do we want to spend on this? And does it make sense? My personal belief, it makes complete sense. At the beginning of this, Chief came out, Ed came out and said, you ran all the stats on response time. And anywhere north of Route 20, EMS was 13 minutes. Anywhere south of Route 20, on average, was 17, 18 minutes. So if you're, God forbid, if you're living on Charlton Res, and that 5 minutes is going to make a difference. This is town-owned property. The other benefit is having right in front of the school. I really hope people consider this and put this on.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Is there anything further to be said on this matter? Okay, hearing none. Please vote. Green for yes, red for no. Please vote no. Stop voting. 94. Motion carries 94 to 6. Article 6, transfer to and from stabilization funds. To see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate a sum or sums to or from the stabilization funds, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a motion?
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I move that the town vote to transfer and appropriate the following sums to and from the following accounts and funds, each such transfer to be considered a separate appropriation. We're going to move from free cash to capital stabilization fund, $600,000. That's for future capital projects. We will move from free cash to stabilization fund, $500,000. That's for fund stabilization according to reserve policy. We'll move from sewer retained earnings, $1,900,000 to sewer stabilization fund, and that's for future capital projects. And then from water retained earnings, $150,000 to water stabilization fund, and that's also for future capital projects.
Thank you. So that was $1,900,000 for
Sewer.
to the sewer. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee supports this motion.
Thank you. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen supports this motion.
Okay, the majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter? Everyone gets their 3 minutes. Okay, hearing none. Please vote now. Green for yes, red for no. Please stop the voting. 84 voted yes. 8 voted no. Motion carries. Article 7, tree warden appointed position. To see if the town will vote to amend the Charlton general bylaws so as to change the position of tree warden from an elected position to an appointed one by deleting from section 50-1A, section 1, which lists elected positions, D, which currently reads tree warden, and by adding to section 50-2, which lists appointed officials, immediately following the words town council, the words tree warden, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. We have a motion.
Madam Moderator,
Yes.
I move that Article 7 be accepted as printed.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommends this motion.
Thank you. A majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter? Hearing none. Please vote green for yes, red for no. Please vote now. Remaining. Please stop voting. 79 in the affirmative, 14 voted no. Motion carries. Anyone interested in becoming tree warden in the town of Charlton should see Andrew immediately after the meeting. Article 8. Article 8, amendment to municipal charges and lien bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws, chapter to be assigned, municipal charges lien, section 3, by inserting therein the following. I, fines issued under Mass General Law, chapter 148A, section 2, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This is sponsored by the building commissioner and the Board of Selectmen. Do we have a motion?
Madam Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Bobrowski.
I move that Article 8 be accepted as printed.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen supports this motion.
Thank you. Maybe a majority vote. Is there anything to be said on this matter? Hearing none. Please vote now. Green for yes, red for no.
seconds remaining. Please stop the voting. There's 78 in the affirmative, 10 voted no, the motion carries. Article 9, amendment to Chapter 180, Streets and Sidewalks. To see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws, Chapter 180, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 2, by deleting the present section and inserting in lieu thereof the following. Section 180-2, obstructions. Number 1, no person other than a town employee performing such employee's duty on behalf of the town shall place or cause to be placed in any town public way or street any dirt, rubbish, wood, timber, or other material of any kind which has or would have the effect of obstructing or impeding legal use of any such street or way without written permission from the Board of Selectmen. Number 2, no person other than a town employee performing such employee's duties on behalf of the town shall place or cause to be placed any permanent or temporary obstruction on a public sidewalk or crosswalk, including but not limited to mailboxes, trash cans, motor vehicles, debris or signage, or any other material or object without written permission from the Board of Selectmen. Subsection A, the Board of Selectmen may grant exceptions that do not violate the requirements of the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board regulations or the Americans with Disabilities Act, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This is sponsored by the Building Commissioner and the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a motion?
Madam Moderator,
Yes?
I move that Article 9 be accepted as printed.
Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The BOS supports this motion.
Thank you. A majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter? Mr. Sage.
Does this also apply to private roads in town, or is it just public roads and streets?
I need to direct your question to our town administrator.
So the current bylaw does reflect public ways, so it would apply to basically public streets. The extension of this bylaw is applicable mostly to the sidewalks to ensure that they remain in ADA compliance.
Thank you. Is there anything further?
Chris Cackley, 31 Bayless Road.
So,
I just wanted to clarify for that. So people who have sidewalks who have like the milk jug and all that stuff, is that what they're talking about? Like, is that something that could be, deemed as, impeding public way?
Obstruction, that's a good question. And Andrew, is that the intention?
So at this time, we would not be looking to move those. They have been approved by the postmaster, but the ones, I assume that you're talking about the ones on Main Street currently?
That's correct, yeah.
So we're in the process right now of trying to do some upgrades to those sidewalks, and we're working with the homeowners around there to make sure that the future plan for the mailboxes don't impede the sidewalk to the standard ADA.
Okay, so and if when work is done, those homeowners would know that,
Yes.
that, okay, thank you.
Correct. Thank you. Good question. Yes, sir.
Dan Stevens, 107 Coben Road.
Mr. Stevens.
Exactly what prompted this to be put on the warrant for the roads? Was there any one defining moment?
Thank you. Andrew, would you respond to that?
Relative to the roads, this bylaw currently does exist relative to the roads, so it's probably...
Use the microphone, please.
Relative to the roads, this bylaw currently exists. The only addition was the sidewalk portion of it. So this bylaw was passed years ago.
Now, exactly how is this going to affect people with their trash dumpsters that they hang out in the road?
So does this impact putting your trash cans out?
It should not impact the trash cans. We just hope that in putting out the trash cans that you don't intentionally block the sidewalk.
Well, I'm talking on the roads, though, because they like to cheat, push them out a little bit further, tightening the road up.
So is this intended to also keep the road clear of obstructions such as trash cans?
The intention is to keep the road clear of all obstructions, including trash cans.
Thank you.
Okay, how does this affect where somebody owns the land under the road and the town only has the right to use it?
Can you clarify your question? Where someone owns the land
Yes.
under the road, is that what you said?
Yes, the town only has the right to use and maintain the travel portion thereof.
And your question is, does that
How
change?
does that affect anything?
Not to my knowledge, no.
That would not impact this amendment to the bylaw. Thank you. Is there anything else to be said? Hearing none. Please vote now. Green for the affirmative, red for no. Seconds remaining. Please stop the voting. 73 in the affirmative, 20 voted no, motion carries. Article 10, to rename Board of Selectmen to Select Board. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the Massachusetts General Court to enact legislation to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board and the title of Selectman to Select Board Member in substantially the form below, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to approve amendments to said act before its enactment by the General Court that are within the scope of the general objectives of the petition, or take any action relative thereto or thereof. And the language reads, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives in general court assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1, notwithstanding any general or special law to the contrary, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Charlton shall be referred to as the Select Board of the Town of Charlton, and individual members of said board shall be referred to as a member of the Select Board. Section 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage. This article is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen. Do we have a motion?
Madam Moderator?
Yes.
I move the Article 10 to be accepted as printed.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen supports it.
Thank you. A majority vote is needed. Is there anything to be said on this matter? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Kara Holland, 18 Pheasant Lane.
Thank you, Ms. Holland.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I first want to say that I support this. I think it is something that is probably overdue, but I do have two questions. Number one, from the town administrator perspective, what's required to implement the proposed change?
It's a great question. Yep. Andrew, would you like to speak to that?
In order to implement the proposed change, it would require that the legislature pass new legislation to formally recognize the change, and then at a future town meeting, we would make the effective bylaw changes to reflect so.
And
Respond to your question?
Yep, thank you. And my second question would be, just from an attorney perspective, what's the legality of the proposed change?
Thank you. I'll ask our town council to weigh in on that. Jen, could you speak right into the microphone, please?
Is the question, what is the legality?
The legality of what's being proposed here.
It's perfectly legal if the legislature approves it.
Thank you. It's perfectly legal if the legislature approves it. Yes, ma'am.
I have an issue with using the word select for the board. Although select has many definitions, I decided to select ones that make my point. Singled out in preference. of special value or excellence, a small group of some of the best people or things of their kind. To me, these imply a select board would have superiority over the other people in town. If the name is to change, maybe it should reflect the duties of the selectmen. According to the town's website, selectmen make appointments, approve licenses, oversee town property, and set policies. Better choices for that board might be appointing board or policy board. In addition, changing the name, as worded in this article, could reduce the power of the board. Massachusetts general laws give powers to selectmen, such as appointing some boards and Chapter 61 right of first refusal. If there are no selectmen, no one in Charlton could do these things. Also, it would require a vote to change the wording in the town bylaws to reflect the new name. I think if the name is changed, any contract that they have already authorized as selectmen could become void. Examples might include employment contracts with the town administrator, police and fire chief, and unions. I would like to know, with the water agreement and any host community agreements with utility and marijuana companies that were approved, quote, acting through the Board of Selectmen, end quote, become void and need to be renegotiated.
So it's another legal question. I'll ask our town council. If the name changes from Board of Selectmen to Select Board, is there a risk to our agreements and contracts and other documents that have been signed under the previous name? Should it be changed?
No, the answer is no.
So the answer is no.
This simply, it overrides any general or special legislation. It overrides any general law. It simply says that the Board of Selectmen shall be referred to as, does not change the powers of the Board of Selectmen, adding greater powers or minimizing the powers they have now. No.
And does the name change itself doesn't annul any of the contracts that have been signed under previously?
That's correct.
Correct. No, it has no impact legally.
I think selectman is just the name of a position, just like clerk or tree warden. I don't think it needs to change. But if it is, I urge you to vote no tonight. Come back at another meeting with a name that reflects the role of the board, and include in the article wording that gives the new name the same authority as that's provided to selectmen in the Massachusetts general laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sage.
Stephen Sage, Lincoln Point Road. When I hear the word select, it refers to me that I get into a polling booth and select who's going to represent me in my town. But I stand before you this evening to endorse Article 10. This is a quote. Jeanette Pickering Rankin, who was born in 1880 and died in 1973, was a woman, an American woman, to hold federal office in the United States. She was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives as a Republican from Montana in 1916 for one term, and then was elected again in 1940. And please notice that a woman was elected prior to the time women had the right to vote. Clearly, some men were progressive enough in 1916 to recognize that women were part of the team. More quoting, passed by Congress in June 4th, 1919, and ratified on August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote. The 19th Amendment legally guaranteed American women the right to vote. Achieving this milestone required a lengthy and difficult struggle. Victory took decades of agitation and protest. I have been advocating for years that the Board of Selectmen be renamed Board of Select Persons. We have had women as members of the board for decades. I am more than happy to support the non-gender name Select Board. and that is due to some other research I did, and quoting from another article. Some of the animals people have elected to office in the U.S. include dogs, cats, mules, goats, and cows. When a community in Washington elected committeeman Boston Curtis the mule in 1938, he was probably one of the first animals in public office. Notice they referred an ass as a congressman. A committeeman. Continuing the quote, in 1981, East Bay, California residents elected Bosco, the black lab, as mayor. He actually beat 2 human candidates and held the office for the rest of his life until 1994. And part of that article that was writing and including those things stated, we're not surprised that some communities would prefer a dog, cat, cow, or goat as mayor, or choose a mule over a person as a committee person. Notice they changed it, committee man, to committee person. That's why I always thought about select person being kind of the thing to do, but they were calling a mule a person, which seems kind of strange. One more second.
Yeah, you have 10 seconds. Thank
There
you.
may someday be an animal elected to the Charlton Board of Select Board. That might be more progressive than some current members.
Thank you.
Vote yes on Article 10.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Ma'am?
My name is Pat Stockwell, Sunset Drive. I just want to say that I support changing the name to Select Board. There are already 5 towns in our state Senate district that have changed the name. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucky I'm tall. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, first of all. Barbara Zarowski, 96B Baker Pond Road. I am a select woman on the selectmen board. I just want to say tonight that the change that we're proposing is not changing who we are or what we do as a board. It doesn't change any rules that we have. It's just a simple gender-neutral change. We have the Select Board Association in Massachusetts that is overseeing over 292 boards in Massachusetts alone. It has over hundreds of members, and they, for over 100 years, had the name as a Selectmen Board Association. They also changed that name to Select Board in 2020. So did most of the towns under that association. There's a few towns around us that didn't change the name. Webster, one of them, Dudley, Spencer, East Brookfield. They did not change the name, simply there's not a single woman on that board. So that's that. On my personal note, my mother always told me, Basha, if you work hard enough and you believe in something, you can be or do anything you want. So I did. I am many things, but selectman is not one of them. I am select woman and proud of it. Thank you.
Is there any further to be said?
If I could add to this,
Madam Moderator, John Howland, 132 Osgood Road. I move the question.
And we have a motion to move the question. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed?
without me,
Okay, sorry, the majority has it. We're going to vote. I'm terribly sorry, Selectman Thomas. The question has been moved. All right, we're going to vote now. Please read for yes, red for no. Everyone please vote. Thank you, 10 seconds. Please start the voting. 62 deliberations. We have a motion to adjourn.
Madam Moderator, motion to adjourn.